Well, call the meeting to order for the public hearing, right? Welcome, everybody. So we're called to order, so I guess you, Abe, or...
I'll give maybe a brief description of what we're proposing as far as rate adjustments. Then we'll have some time for people to ask questions or make comments or anything. If you have not got a copy of the red line rate sheets, they are right here, and it kind of shows all the proposed changes. Basically, we are proposing rate adjustments to become effective July 2nd. The reason for July 2nd is there's a city ordinance or charter requirement that between 15 and 30 days we have to have this public hearing. Exactly 15 days from now, July 2nd. So, what we're proposing in electric is no rate increases. So that's good news. The self-managed purchase power plan continues to allow us to have stable rates. We are proposing 2 rate decreases. They're relatively small, both of them in the what I call industrial, for industrial customers. One is to redefine the large industrial user rate category, which right now is a category 1 customer, and if this redefinition goes through, it would be a category of 4 customers. Basically, we would be lowering the peak demand from 4,000 kilowatts to 1,000 kilowatts in a month, and take out the load factor requirement. It's about $150,000 hit to the electric fund revenue, so not a significant amount. The second part in electric is to eliminate the power.
That creates what, 5?
That creates 4.
4 in that
Category
category
1
now.
becomes 4,
Okay.
and would have been possibly 6 with a couple of industries that closed a couple years ago.
Okay.
So there's an opportunity for other people to be in that category. We got building size well enough. The other proposed change is to eliminate the power factor correction penalties. We spent about 2 days of collecting and calculating power factor once a month, and we sent about $1,500 in penalties out to a couple of industrial customers. Also, our current purchase power method doesn't penalize us for power factor, so we just didn't feel going through that effort was worth the time we spent on it. In the sewer department, no rate changes are being proposed, so good news there. In the water department, this is the area where we're proposing the increases. Approximately a 3.5% increase in revenue spread out amongst the rate classes. It's consistent with the cost of service study that we did about a year ago, 2018. It's also consistent with our 5-year rate increase plan that we started advertising about this time last year, where we would have a 3.5% increase in July and about a 7.5% increase each January to fund 3 things: the PAC project, loss of Ross County water, and just general inflationary items. All those recommendations came out of that cost of service study done in the spring of 2018, and we started our first increase in July of 2018. So this is our third version of that, each 6 months apart.
And the 3.5 in July was to allow for the, an increase that you might see for just inflation purposes in the wastewater.
Yeah, the idea.
So it adds up to kind of the same.
Yeah, the idea of staggering 3.5 and 7.5 is our tradition had been looking at all rates around July, and we sometimes go up a cost of living type increase in water, sewer, and/or electric. So we're trying to lower the total hit in July, or keep that relatively low.
But there was none for wastewater then?
No, none for wastewater. This fiscal year, sewer department is doing well. So in water, the bottom line is the increase, the average residential customer is about $1.43 per month. And then we do have some small wording changes in a document called the Schedule of Fees and Charges, which says how much we charge when somebody wants a water tap, or the septic tank haulers, or 50 other things that happen here. We have some minor pricing updates and some minor wording cleanup items mostly. I'd leave out any specifics, Abe, that were,
No, I would maybe add in the electric fund, Parks and Rec is moving to the municipal free utility
Yeah.
schedule. Other than that, gotta do it better myself.
we'll just open it up to questions, comments. Start throwing things if you want now.
Abe, the increases in water, that's tied to our bond issue now, correct?
That's part of it, that's the majority of it. Of that total rate increase over 5 years of, whatever it was, 53%, I believe the GAC facility was 60% of that, does that sound about right? So, you know, the GAC, the bond, the payment for the GAC, the bond payment and operating expenses there, as well as Ross County being a significant customer, and like you said, the general inflationary pressures.
And during our bond rating, we made the rating company aware of our tentative rate plan, so that was part of our, you know, they were assuming we would follow through with those.
And that's why we were able to get a good rating and thus a good interest rate?
That's all part of it. Yeah, they were glad to see that we had a plan for paying for our debts and our operating expenses, and a projected rate track for all that.
Cool.
Thank you. That also, the 53% included inflationary increases.
It did.
And we're not having to do that this time. Is that correct?
Well, I would not say, on the water expenses.
On the water?
I mean, there's still inflationary pressures there with our labor. Again, there will be a memo of understanding with the union to increase wages by a certain percentage and inflation on chemicals and stuff like that. I mean, we're still experiencing.
We're raising 3.5%, but the majority of that was to go to this paying the bond, right?
Well, the 3.5, 7.5, there's, like he said, the thought to that was to spread these out to have a financial impact on the residents, reasonable or sustainable.
Right.
The thought being, in some future years, we'll probably have inflationary pressures and the sewer fund will be increasing in July also.
Yes.
That if you took 3.5% on 2 funds, would be similar to the 7% in January on the water fund. I wouldn't want to say that this is 3.5 is bond driven, because we're kind of looking at the total, you know, 53% divide out over 5 years, and then try to allocate it, you know, around the calendar.
And if this project comes in under the full amount of bonds that we sold, then we can taper off on the back end in terms of.
I would say that
It's a little early right now to be talking about that. But
yeah, a little early now, but definitely our plan would be for a future rate increase to be lower or non-existent. You know, probably one of the January increases or something. We would at the end of this 5-year.
or we'll get where we need to be in 3 or 3.5 years as opposed to 5 years.
So, you know, we'll have construction done and probably have a year or so of actual operating experience at the plant under our belt before we deviate from this track.
So that'll be 2 years from now then. Okay.
I would need to see us, I mean, the whole plan with this was to keep the increases reasonable and affordable.
Steady.
And steady, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see us waive a series and then double up a series and, you know, really shock the customers.
Other comments, questions from anybody about the rates? Guess not.
No. So I guess
I think you have to close the public hearing.
adjourn this meeting then. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Sure.
Well said.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.